Pablo, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? T, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. JP, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been, brother? Hey, brother Miles and family. Comatose, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Manny, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? Good day, Miles. Mike, good to see you. So how you doing? How you been? I'm back. Let's go, JP. Good to see you back, brother. How have you been? Okay, tonight's live show is going to be an interesting one because the bills, two of them have been passed, and the third one's on the verge of being passed, or essentially. But the first time around when they got, didn't pass through, the 13 Republicans were all asked to go to the White House, I'm guessing, to have a discussion with Trump. And after having a discussion with Trump, those 13 essentially Republicans that voted negative on the bill all turned positive. I mean, I told everyone yesterday regarding, when Shelley was updating us on, what's happening with the bill the first time it got essentially rejected and then, it got paused and it's going to happen tomorrow. I said most likely the reason why Trump cancelled the essentially voting to make it tomorrow is because he wanted to have a discussion with the 13 Republicans that voted negative, essentially voted a no. Obviously, fast forward to today when the bill got passed, and it seems like, as I said, Trump is the type of man that gets what he wants, and those 13 Republicans had no choice but to accept that bill. Hey, Miles, how's things? XRP's pumping. Let's go on to see. Yes, it is. Good evening, Miles, and all CMF. I hope everyone is good. Let's go, Adi. How you doing? The Genius Sack. Let's go, Hyper Sniper. Good evening, Miles. How are you doing today? I'm doing great, Cali. Good to see you. How you been? Great now. Let's go, JP. So, welcome to the CMF Live. If you're watching this for the first time ever, CMF stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles, and I host the live there watching. You can tune to this live Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time, where I share the most recent news regarding cryptocurrency, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much everything you need to know about regarding this world transforming into a digital space. The disclaimer of this live, as always, is not financial advice, not political advice, and whatever I say is only for entertainment purposes. And this is episode 335, but for some reason it says episode 334. Let me fix that. And I can't change it. Okay, this is episode 335 of the CMF Live, but for some reason it says episode 334. Could I maybe change it from here? Let's see. It should be fixed now, I think. Let's see. Okay, so welcome to episode 335 of the CMF Live. It's not episode 334, it's actually episode 335. I don't know why the title says that. Now, he was like your dad talking to me in the room after getting bad grades at school. Pretty much, that's how Trump was reacting to the 13 Republicans. Hi, Miles, CMF. How you doing today? I'm doing great, Collins. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Meaning Trump, the dad. Yep. So, a lot of things to go through on tonight's live regarding what's happening or what is essentially next. A lot of people want to know, since the Genius Act has been passed, the Clarity Act has also been passed as well. What's next in stock? What's going to be happening soon? And how the market's going to react moving forward from now on. Well, the market should be reacting positive from now on moving forward. And just want to take 5 seconds just to say thank you so much to everybody from the CMF who has already liked this live, retweeted this live, and put a comment outside live on X. Thank you so much to every single one of you. And also, if you watch this on YouTube, drop a like, drop a comment as well outside the live. As I said, CMF members, I have big plans for the CMF, but we need to grow this family, and I can't do it without you. So I really appreciate if you drop a like and drop a retweet as well. Evening, Brother Miles and CMF family. Funky brother, good to see you. How you been? XRP Army, let's go. Let's go, funky brother. Evening, Miles and CMF Pierce, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Now, the first topic on tonight's live is the cryptocurrency bills. So here it is. President Trump having a discussion with the 13 Republicans worked. because they all voted in favor of the bill happening. So President Donald Trump's recent intervention has accelerated the House's decision to pass the 3 landmark cryptocurrency bills over the next 2 days, impacting the crypto markets significantly. These bills could reshape the cryptocurrency regulations, indicating more structured, essentially, oversight. Market reactions include notable price increases for cryptocurrencies. House Republicans, led by Speaker Mike Johnson and Majority Leader Steve, prepared to advance the Genius Act, which already passed, the Clarity Act, which is also passed, and the Anti-CBDC Act, which hasn't still passed. Trump's assurance essentially has reportedly shifted the GOP's hardliners to support these measures. After a short Oval Office discussion, the holdouts have all agreed to vote tomorrow, which they already did. Immediate impacts on the markets include 2% rise on Bitcoin, which is actually doing higher, 7% increase on Ethereum, which is doing a little bit higher. Crypto-related stocks like Circle's International Group also surged by 14%, showing market excitements. The financial implications are significant, particularly for stablecoins and associated industries. The Genius Act, for example, addresses stablecoin regulations affecting companies like Circle and Coinbase and even Ripple with RLUSD. Broader legislation is essentially clarity, often boosts trading activities and crypto integrations. Historically, regulatory advances spur short-term market growth. The anticipated passage of these bills could provide a framework for US-compliant DeFi protocols, enhancing essentially investor confidence and potentially increasing total value locked in. Now, the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act, Genius, cleared a procedural vote of 215 to 211, setting the stage for formal, essentially, approval. The legislation would create a clear legal framework for stablecoin issuance and is expected to reach President Trump's desk later this week. So that's pretty much what is next. If anybody wants to know, what's happening next now with the bills that have been passed, have been voted on, what happens? Well, Trump needs to sign them in. And as we know, Trump has made this the crypto week to get everything done with cryptocurrencies. So we know he's going to be signing it by the end of the week. Lawmakers also advanced the digital asset market clarity, which seeks to define the roles of the SEC and the CFTC in crypto regulations. So no more essentially of what is a cryptocurrency. Is it a security? Is it essentially a commodity? The confusion that was there before, where a lot of people were just trampling on gray areas and getting sued by the SEC, can no longer happen. Another bill under consideration would essentially bar the Federal Reserve from launching a central bank digital currency, CBDC, for retail use. So this third bill, that's essentially the anti-CBDC bill, which essentially means that the Fed is not allowed to create a CBDC. But it does leave room for somebody else to create a CBDC for the United States. And it could be a private entity like Ripple. No Democrats supported the measures. No surprise there. The Democrats hate the idea of essentially the retail section making a quick profit for themselves or generational wealth, signaling a sharp, essentially partisan divide between the Republicans and the essentially Democrats. Maxine Waters denounced the bills as dangerous, accusing Trump's administration of using them to fuel a crypto scam. Market analysts see this as an opportunity for increasing institutional participation. As you can see, the market couldn't care less what Maxine Waters has to say, or any Democratic in that matter. So the market analysts see that this is an opportunity for increasing institutional participation, providing more compliance, essentially certainty. Stablecoins and major DeFi platforms could also gain broader recognition and credibility while potentially promoting capital inflows into the essentially US market space. The legislation strictly essentially addresses financial, institutional, and regulatory needs by solidifying the USD-pegged token status within the national framework of the US. This development essentially may position the US as a central player in the global essential crypto arena. So that title the US was aiming for, the capital of the crypto world, it's happening now. Future scenarios involve regulations impacting financial technology and legislative practices within the cryptocurrency industry. Patterns from past regulatory transitions hint essentially at an increased stability and market integration, potentially expanding the sector's economic contributions. The House's essentially advancements emphasizes the importance of these bills and also suggesting a pivotal shift inside the United States approach to digital currencies. Such efforts underscores the broader discussion signifies surrounding the legislations. So the bills are going to be by the end of the week on Trump's desk to essentially be signed into law. 2 have already passed through the votes. If I'm not mistaken, 1 is just already left. And the first time the voting obviously happened, it was a negative. Now it's all about positivity, which is brilliant. So the US right now, regarding institutions, the amount of capital that's going to be inflowing once these bills essentially reach Trump's desk and are signed into law, it essentially makes the crypto space look like a mature space. No longer any bank or any institution or anybody out there from anywhere essentially around the world should be coming out and saying cryptocurrencies are scams, Ponzi schemes, they have no value. None of that behavior should ever be happening again with these laws put into place in the world's biggest market space, standing behind the crypto space, making it law. It's a alarm bell to the whole world that crypto is finally here to stay and it's going nowhere except upwards. Now, Arthur Hayes, we're going to talk about next on this topic. Arthur Hayes envisions a highly anticipated monster altcoin season for Ethereum, XRP, Cardano, Solana, Doge, and Shiba, and so on. Arthur Hayes, the former CEO of the cryptocurrency derivatives trading platform BitMEX, has shared essentially his bullish outlooks for altcoins. The crypto founder predicts an upcoming bullish rally for alternative cryptocurrencies in the near term. Conversations about alt season, a period where alternative cryptocurrencies outperform Bitcoin, have heightened in recent times. So far, sentiments from key players have been mixed, as some participations essentially maintain that altcoins are not well positioned to outpace Bitcoin price performance anytime soon. Arthur Hayes sees it otherwise, and he should do, because now the bills are being passed. On the other hand, Arthur Hayes is one of the few onlookers, essentially optimists about the near-term future of altcoins. Hayes, who initially revealed that he was skeptical due to ongoing market chaos, is now convinced that Bitcoin's recent rally is setting the stage for essentially an altcoin takeover to be happening. I was slightly bearish in my last essentially essay due to TGA refills. What changed? BTC busted through, and all-time essentially altcoins are on the good volume. Notably, altcoins frequently recorded an increase in demand as investors' confidence heightens following a Bitcoin rally, and Bitcoin's position as an apex cryptocurrency carries a significant weight essentially across the broader cryptocurrency markets. And as such, essentially positive correlations have been historically recorded during bull runs. Even Arthur Hayes is coming out and saying, prepare yourself for a monster altcoin season. Also, just want to put it out there as well, yesterday when the bill didn't pass, I said there are certain companies out there that essentially would be happy that the bills didn't pass because they won't do too well under regulations. And I pointed out to one particular company out there like Tether. I said Tether, for example, I wouldn't be surprised, was behind essentially the Democrats or 13 Republicans to make them say no on the bill, which obviously Trump pressured them to say yes because they had no choice. It's Trump. Interestingly, the Wall Street Journal today came out with an article and stated essentially that Tether will be one of the companies that wouldn't perform too well on the regulations, because now that we have a Genius Act inside the United States that's about to be signed by Trump into essentially an actual regulation, companies like Tether will have to become transparent inside the United States. They have no choice but to become transparent. And if they don't, then that means USDT cannot operate in the US whatsoever, which will raise many alarms. And it's not a good thing for USDT. But, we've said this before, and I'll say it again, USDT struggled in Europe due to transparency. Once again, USDT is about to struggle essentially in America due to transparency issues, and also not being an American company and printing too much USDT, saying they have reserves that they are not willing to show to the rest of the world. And again, not being a US company, that just raises more alarms for USDT. But the good news is it opens space and room for somebody else to take USDT's rankings. Is it going to be USDC or is it going to be ORLUSD? USDC obviously does have an edge of ORLUSD right now due to the amount of volume it already has. But ORLUSD is just a better token. Let's just be honest with ourselves, as a digital, essentially, dollar. And I'm not saying that because I'm just essentially a Ripple supporter or an XRP supporter. It's just the facts. USDT has difficulty with transparency. USDC already depegged once. ORLUSD is the most transparent, essentially, stablecoin out there. Ripple, we know for a fact, has money, and it's never going to depeg situations happening ever again. But the thing that essentially happened with USDC is never going to happen for Ripple. But by a mile, ORLUSD is much more better. But yeah, the Wall Street Journal came out with an article and said that companies like essentially Tether are not going to do too well on the regulations like the Genius Act. And that's exactly what I said yesterday on, the reasons of maybe those politicians were paid off by Tether. Now, Moving on to the next news on tonight's live, which is Bank of America. But before we go through Bank of America news, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the next news. So let's see where we're at, and then we'll go straight into the next news. We were at Carlos, good to see how you doing. How you been? Meaning Trump the dad. Let's go, JP. Even brother Miles and CMF family, funky brother. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Evening. XRP, let's go. Let's go, funky brother. Evening, Miles and CMF. Pierce, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Greetings, Miles. Lena, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles and CMF. Orphan, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Morning, Miles and CMF. Shelly, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good evening, Miles of CMF. SB, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Hi, Miles of CMF. Stormy, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Good afternoon, Miles and the CMF. All-time new high coming for XRP. Let's go. We're about to smash that all-time new high, I'll be honest. Let's go, Christopher. Evening, Miles. Mac, good to see you as well, brother. How you doing? How you been? JP, good. Let's go. Hello, everyone. Jim, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Happy Pisces, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Miles, will you let us know when to start taking profits? Yes, I will. Well, when it gets essentially near its all-time highs, you can start taking a little bit of profits if you want. Obviously not financial advice in any sort of a way. You know where I stand when it comes to a project like XRP. I've never taken profits on XRP. Some people might be against that. Some people might be, for that. But I've always said this. If you want to take profits, it's never a bad idea to take profits. If you want to take profits, it's never a bad idea. But for me personally, XRP, I don't see it essentially topping out on $3, $4 and calling it a day. XRP for me is essentially an asset that's going to just rocket through as time goes by. So I personally would never take profits on XRP or essentially XLM, you could say, for the time being. Anything else, I'll take profits on it, no problem. But when the time is right, I will obviously essentially tell everyone to take profits, especially when certain tokens break their previous records. That could be a perfect time if you want to take profits. But again, you've got to understand that we've just entered into rules and regulations. That's just about to be signed by Trump. So what's going to happen next is slowly, utility. So if you start taking profits before utility kicks in, that's a big L. You might want to wait for a while so that utility is kicking in and things are happening and detaching is happening. And then if you want to take profits down the line, sure, go for it. But to take essentially profit, not saying that you're saying, take profits now, but in any sort of way, but just saying this as a, in general for everyone. If you're thinking about taking profits now, in general for everyone, if you're thinking about taking profits now, it's a bit too soon, is what I would say. It's because we just got regulations, we're just about to get them signed, we're just about to go to utility. So it's the perfect time to hold very, very tight. And again, I'm not saying you want to take profits right now in any sort of way, but I just want to put that out there. We're just about to get the ball rolling. But yeah, I'll definitely let you know when the time is right, no problem. Even the Miles and CMF peeps, let's go Semper. Hope everyone is well. Everyone like and retweet. Got to be up early for work. I'll be listening tomorrow. One love, no problem. Good to see you. How you doing? And thanks so much for the like and retweet as well. Absolutely amazing. I'm not taking no profits. I want to keep investing in XRP. I need to drop. Will it drop, Miles? If we get massive bad news inside the market space, anything's possible. The markets obviously will react in a negative way. Not from XRP, but I have so many other coins. Fair enough, funky brother. So do I. I had to get rid of them as well. On lunch break, hold tight, everyone. Let's go, one love. Miles, in your predictions, how long before the price shoots up? Because I need a few months to invest. You still have time to invest. Don't worry. Utility is not going to happen overnight. In any sort of a way. For some tokens, you might see faster reactions. For some tokens, you might see slower reactions when it comes to utility, now that we're getting rules and regulations. But it won't happen overnight straight away. So you'll have time still to buy. And as utility slowly, you see that momentum coming in. Now, unless, again, some tokens will react much more faster than others, but you still have time to buy, don't worry. The price will be climbing as you're buying, is what I would say as well. Unless we get incredibly bad news somehow and then the market drops, then that's a perfect opportunity for you to buy one last time. Now, Bank of America. Bank of America explores stablecoin opportunity aimed regulatory anticipation. For example, Bank of America doesn't want to wait anymore because now that we have the Genius Act passed and it just needs to be signed by Trump, Bank of America is about to jump in first. So here it is. Bank of America under CEO Brian revealed today essentially an earnings call to the bank's intentions to delve into stablecoin sectors, marking essentially today as a potential turning point for traditional banking engagements in digital currencies. Bank of America, as soon as the bill was passed today, Bank of America's CEO comes out today and says, we're going into digital currencies. The move signals a significant interest in stablecoins by traditional banks, driven by evolving essentially customer demands and anticipated regulatory frameworks. Brian and Morgan Stanley CFO Sharon emphasized the need for regulatory clarity, hinting at a careful strict planning by major financial institutions. Bank of America announced plans to introduce a stablecoin pending regulatory clarity and partnering essential opportunities. Now, CEO Brian essentially highlighted their client demands and industry developments as drivers for this movement. Brian, he also essentially stated, we feel both the industry and ourselves will have responses. We've done a lot of work. We are still trying to figure out how big or small it is, because in some places there are not big amounts of money movements. So you would expect us all to move, our company to move on that. Morgan Stanley CFO Sharon said, also noted, monitoring the stablecoin market for future use. These essentially actions reflect a broader shift towards digital finance solutions by traditional banks. Key changes essentially include mainstream banks, every entry into stablecoin issuance, offering strengthened frameworks for digitized transactions. These developments emphasize the progression essentially towards integrating stablecoins with existing services, a noteworthy essentially shift in financial strategies. Market observers took interest, viewing these explorations as indicative of further essentially potential stablecoin adoption to be happening. Financial analysts also noted the alignments with other banks, similar move, presenting a unified trend in their sector. It's not just Bank of America that's came out today and said they're going to be entering into the digital world because now we have regulations coming in. Other banks also came forward and said they're about to do the exact same thing. Morgan Stanley is very excited to get involved inside the digital space right now because now we have regulations. As I said before, regulations close all the gray areas, which essentially makes high-profile institutions or essentially banks feel comfortable entering inside the crypto space and bringing their very, very large amounts of money with themselves. Research teams also assessed the Genius Act as might essentially catalyze transparent stablecoin developments, enhancing essentially client confidence. Banks' increased insertions within the crypto sector suggest potential technological essentially synergies. Two innovative financial products. Bank of America does not expect a recession in the US economy this year and predicts that economic growth will continue at around 1.5%. Remember when Bank of America, or remember when any bank or any institution said that Trump is going to cause the biggest recession everybody's ever seen in the entire world? The Democratic Party even came out as far as saying that Trump is going to ruin America completely and put it back in the Stone Ages. Well, now Bank of America has come out today and said that America is not expecting a recession in any sort of a way, and instead we're going to see growth as we continue forward until the end of the year. Now, in a conference call with analysis, bank CEO Brian highlighted the essentially improvements in the market environments in the last quarter, stating that this allowed Bank of America's strong research team to maintain their predictions that there would be no recession whatsoever inside the US. And they also noted that individual and corporate customers continue to spend, and that's essentially particularly with the passage of the latest trade agreements and tax laws. Customers have essentially developed clear expectations about the future and essentially are beginning to shape their behavior accordingly. He also essentially noted that the Fed is not expected to cut interest rates this year, but the first cut unlikely to occur until early 2026 from essentially Jerome Powell. But a little bit more on that later on. Meanwhile, essentially, President Trump called on the Fed to lower the interest rates, arguing that the inflation rates are low. In a statement on Truth Social, essentially on Tuesday morning, Trump declared consumer prices are lower than the Fed's interest rates, lower than the Fed's interest rate now. In another post the same morning, he said the Fed should lower interest rates by 3 percentage points, adding inflation is very low, interest rates should be lowered by 3 percentage points, and this would save $1 trillion a year. So before, the Democratic Party, the analysts, the researchers of all these major firms that were behind the Democratic Party said if Trump becomes president of the United States, the American economy will collapse. We will have the biggest recession in the world, and America will be ruined under Trump's authority. It seems like, according to Bank of America now, that America is nowhere near a recession, and instead America is expecting growth year on year. Who saw that one coming? The intelligent people did. Now, Trump. Trump reportedly considers firing Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. So, US President Donald Trump is reportedly considering the removal of Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. As stated by the White House officials, essentially a definite timeline for the decision has not been set. Apparently today also there was news that Trump is not going to be firing Jerome Powell, maybe because Jerome Powell has realized that he has no choice but to listen to Trump's demands, or he's out the door. The consideration to dismiss essentially Jerome Powell is significant, as it impacts financial market stability and regulatory outlooks. It already has caused unease in US inside the market space, with potential effects on interest rates and inflation expectations. In a meeting at the House Republicans, President Trump shared a draft firing letter regarding Jerome Powell, implying potential changes in Fed leadership. Despite this, Trump publicly described the likelihood of Powell's dismissal as highly unlikely unless justified by fraud allegations. If they find any sort of fraud allegations on Jerome Powell, he's out the door. Are they going to find anything on Jerome Powell in terms of fraud? Yes, 1,000,000%. He's a politician. As much as he likes to claim he's the Fed chairman and has nothing to do with politics, let's just be honest. Let's be honest with ourselves. He's a politician. The speculation around Jerome Powell's position has caused market fluctuations, notably affecting the US dollar's value and treasury yields. Concerns over the Fed independence could increase inflation worries also. The topic also intertwines with cryptocurrency regulations, as essentially discussed with lawmakers involved. Reactions from financial and crypto markets have been essentially immediate. There is also a noticeable lack of official statements from Jerome Powell on the Federal Reserve channel so far. Market observers are waiting further clarity to be happening on the potential actions of what's next by this administration. If Jerome Powell were to be removed, who could be essentially next to lead essentially the Fed? And also, is it going to be pro-crypto? Most likely, yes. Given historical trends, essentially Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies might react sharply with broader implications for market stability. Regulatory changes or uncertainties could essentially exhilarate this volatility, affecting trader strategies globally. Now, is Jerome Powell going to get fired? Probably yes. Are they going to find fraud on him? Yes, definitely. He's a politician. I know for a fact that Jerome Powell somewhere down the line messed up very, very big, or stole money and put it in his own pockets and funneling it through shell companies, most likely. But yeah, expect Jerome Powell to be fired probably very soon, or expect a rate cut. If we get a rate cut from Jerome Powell, that means Trump has found something on him and is just essentially, making him do rate cuts. If Jerome Powell doesn't do rate cuts and he's out the door, that means they have the fraud allegations on him also, and they just use him to push him out the door. Either way, Jerome Powell's essentially days are numbered. The same way those 13 Republicans essentially thought to themselves they can vote no on the crypto bill and go against Trump. And then after having a discussion with Trump, with those 13 Republicans that voted no yesterday, they all voted yesterday because it's Trump. Trump gets what he needs. Essentially, what he wants, he will get it at the end. It's Trump. He doesn't give up. I think everybody should be fully aware of that by now, from any politician or Fed chairman. Now, the NASDAQ is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about the NASDAQ, let's go to the comment section first. As I said before, this is live, which means if you do have any comments or statements to make, put them down to the comment section. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have. So let's go to the comment section first, and then we'll go straight into the next news on tonight's live, which is regarding the NASDAQ and Binance. Let's see where we're at. We were at your What's Up, Miles and CMF. Let's go, Ray. Good to see you, brother. How you doing? How you been? Hi, brother. Come on. Good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Miles, when I said take profits, that was not to turn into fears, rather swap into financial tokens, only X's. Let's go, Punky, brother. I know. I'm fully aware of that. Bitstamp has listed. Oh, thank you for the clarification, still. Bitstamp has listed RLUSD, so maybe I will load that stablecoin with my profits as we go along the bull run. Let's go, Funky brother. Why not? It's the best stablecoin. Hi, Miles and family. Alex, good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Susie said he renovated his digs and apparent it cost over $1 billion. Yeah. So no more XRP pullbacks is what we should be expecting. Yes. Hi, Miles. You're the best. Let's go, Richard. You're the best too, brother. Now, NASDAQ. NASDAQ listed Windtree to buy $60 million worth of BNB in a crypto strategy push. Now, we had companies before, essentially publicly listed companies buy Bitcoin, buy Solana, even buy XRP, and now we have publicly listed companies buying BNB. Windtree, essentially a Nasdaq listed company, has announced today it plans to buy $60 million worth of BNB as a part of its push for a cryptocurrency treasury strategy. The company announced today that it is essentially entered into a securities purchase agreement for $60 million worth of the Binance token BNB, with essentially Build and Build Corp essentially leading the funds to raise. Windtree will eye up to $140 million more in gross proceeds, essentially for future subscriptions, set to take the funds available for the company's BNB treasury strategy to $200 million. So they're not stopping essentially at $60 million of BNB purchases. Their rounded number is $200 million purchase, essentially, of BNB tokens. The proceeds is expected to be in a form of cash, shares of essentially of overseas BNB Chain Trust and BNB. From this financing upon closing is to be primarily used to launch a BNB crypto treasury strategy and purchase BNB, positioning essentially Windtree as a leader in the BNB digital asset, and the company wrote. The initiative comes as corporate participants across essentially the crypto markets up their game with key balance sheets and strategy moves. While Bitcoin has seen the most robust buying by publicly listed companies, altcoins essentially are attracting significant attention also. Ethereum, Ripple's XRP, and Solana have all seen massive investment plans, with many inspired by Michael Saylor's strategy. BNB is also becoming a key target for public companies as the Binance ecosystem strengthens its position as the world's leading crypto exchange. CZ, the founder of Binance and the former chief executive officer, also notes that Windtree is more than a micro-strategy for BNB. The BNB token ranks as top 10 cryptocurrencies by market cap and records an average of $2 billion in trading, essentially in daily trading volume. This transaction secures up to $200 million from institutional investors, offering our shareholders a unique opportunity to gain exposure to BNB-focused crypto treasuries and strategies, said essentially by Jed, the chief executive officer at Windtree. Windtree's plans for a BNB treasury strategy comes just days after YZI Labs, formerly Binance Labs, essentially backed a BNB-focused treasury firm. Nano Labs, another essentially Nasdaq-listed company, is also buying BNB. Look, the fact that more institutions are coming forward, publicly listed companies coming forward and creating crypto wallets, is incredible to see. And the fact that this one's buying BNB and you might be essentially holding XRP, XLM, XDC, HBAR, Cardano, Solana, so on, and you might think that a company coming forward, publicly listed company coming forward, buying BNB might not have essentially any sort of relevance to, but it does, because this will send essentially a message to other institutions essentially out there who are also publicly listed companies on the Nasdaq, to maybe it's essentially a great idea and a great time for them to also create a crypto essentially portfolio. The more companies, publicly listed companies, that come forward and create essentially a crypto portfolio, the more liquidity we're going to see essentially inside the crypto market space for the top 10 or top 20 or top 30 crypto projects out there. Now, so that's the relevance to you, even if you don't hold BNB, because it's showing other companies that maybe they should also get involved as well and create a crypto portfolio. And as I said, we have public listed companies that are buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and now BNB. Now, moving on from essentially the BNB news, and also just point out Ethereum is no longer the Ethereum Foundation is no longer the one that holds the most amount of Ethereum. There is a publicly listed gaming company out there who now owns more Ethereum than the Ethereum Foundation itself. So there's a gaming company out there that owns more Ethereum than the Ethereum Foundation essentially out there as well. So there's a lot of public companies coming forward and buying and creating crypto portfolios, which is great to see, especially now that we're getting more into regulations. Now, moving on from that to the Fed. The Fed's highly anticipated Beige Book document has been published. And, well, here are the details. In the Fed's Beige Book report, it complied by the Boston Fed and released minutes ago, the Fed said the U.S. economy grew slightly from late May to early July. However, the overall economic outlook was assessed as neutral, despite the essentially movements. In the report, only 2 of the Fed's 12 districts indicated that they expect an increase in economic essentially activity in the coming period, while the remaining districts essentially predicted that economic activity would rather maintain current levels or weaken much slightly. Price increases continued nationwide. 7 regions described the price increases as moderate, while 5 reported a more robust, essentially modest pace of price growth. This pattern also was generally consistent with the previous Beige Book reports as well. According to the Fed's Beige Book report, businesses' uncertainties remains high, leading to caution, essentially continued caution movements. Non-automotive consumer spending declined in most regions, while car sales declined slightly due to tariffs. The tourism sector essentially performed mixed, manufacturing weakened slightly, and the non-financial services performed consistently but mixed. Loan amounts increased slightly in most regions. The construction sector slowed, partly due to raising costs, and residential essentially and non-residential sales were generally flat. The agricultural sector remained weak, and the energy sector saw a slight decline. The labor market saw slight growth overall. 1 region saw moderate growth, 6 regions saw slight growth, 3 regions were unchanged, and 2 regions saw a slight decline. Employment also remained cautious due to economic and political uncertainties. Some companies also increased and essentially their investments in automation and artificial intelligence to reduce the need for workers. Wage increases were generally modest, ranging from a flat to moderate. Layoffs were also limited and more common in manufacturing. So according to essentially the Fed's Beige Book that was released minutes ago, the US is in a 50-50 type of situation. So maybe it's a good idea to do rate cuts, for crying out loud. Now, moving on from the Fed's Beige Book to a topic that's always been inside the crypto space of when this will happen, which is quantum computing. It's a topic that's always been inside the crypto space of maybe quantum computing one day will be a threat to blockchain, particularly to Bitcoin. Well, 25% of Bitcoin is at risk, apparently. 25% of Bitcoin is at risk. Developers push for quantum-resistant upgrades to be happening on BTC's chain. Developers are warning that a growing quantum computing threat could compromise 25% of Bitcoin's supply due to exposed public keys. To combat this, Jameson Lopp, the CTO and co-founder of self-custody service Casa, has proposed a quantum-resistant upgrade to the cryptocurrency software, particularly to Bitcoin. According to essentially a report, Bitcoin's improvement proposal, BIPs, approximately 4 million Bitcoins, including the 1 million believed to belong to Satoshi Nakamoto, are essentially vulnerable to future quantum computing attacks. Bitcoin's current signatures essentially will be tantalizing targets. Any UTXO has ever exposed its public keys on-chain. Roughly 25% of all Bitcoins could be stolen by essentially quantum computers. 25% of Bitcoin's supply could be stolen by quantum computing. The plan outlines 3 steps to reduce this threat. The first phase would be to block users from sending Bitcoin to quantum vulnerable addresses and instead require the use of new post-quantum address types called P2QRH. The second step, planned to begin 2 years later, would freeze any funds that have not been moved to a secure address. The final phase is still being studied and could allow people to recover frozen assets using BIP39 seed phrases. Loop also essentially presented the initiative at the Quantum Bitcoin Summit in San Francisco, an essentially invitation-only gathering of experts focused on protecting Bitcoin against such vulnerabilities. The plan, crafted in collaboration with 5 other developers, is built around an insensitive mechanism that warns users that they will lose access to their funds if they do not upgrade. The goal is to push holders towards safer storage methods that quantum computers cannot compromise. You see, this is when companies like essentially people say, for example, that XRP is essentially centralized asset and it's backed by Ripple, and Cardano is centralized because it's backed by Cardano's foundation, and then Solana is essentially not as decentralized people say, and then people just go on and go on and go on. See, times like this, it makes sense that Ripple is behind essentially XRP, doesn't it? Because Ripple will always maintain the XRP ledger in a way that it will never ever get compromised by quantum computing. But in Bitcoin's essentially scenario, it has to be the developers that come up with ideas on how to protect Bitcoin's chain. Not saying the XRP Ledger developers can't come up essentially with plans as well, but we know for a fact that Ripple is always going to maintain the XRP Ledger in a way that it will never ever become compromised. So this is when times when it makes sense that someone like Ripple is standing behind the XRP Ledger. In a proposal, the authors stressed that the Bitcoin autonomy of the threat posed to Bitcoin's ecosystem by potential quantum hack, essentially, or attack. Never before has Bitcoin faced any sort of threats to essentially its cryptography. Now, they wrote a successful quantum attack on Bitcoin will result in significant economic disruptions and damage across the entire ecosystem. Pretty much, quantum computing will take down Bitcoin along the way. Their fear is backed by past Dilute, essentially, study explaining how severe the damage could be. So Dilute did a study on quantum computing and how close we're getting and how much of a damage it could bring to the table on Bitcoin. The research demonstrated that if the vulnerable BTCs were unlocked and sold following a quantum attack, it will trigger heavy selling pressure on the markets. Luke described the situation as liquidation event. So let's just say we get to a stage where quantum computing is essentially viable and it's working perfectly fine. Quantum computing is able to take down certain amounts of wallets on Bitcoin's network. About 25% of their chain will pretty much go down in terms of wallets. And that is going to cause, as what Dilute has put it as, liquidation event. They've actually named it the liquidation event because if that happens, then a tremendous amount of people will be selling Bitcoin on the market while the wallets are being compromised, 25% of wallets being compromised on Bitcoin's network. On the other side, people will be also selling because they're panic selling because wallets will be taken over by quantum computing, and other people are selling their Bitcoins because how they're going to keep them safe is what they'll be panicking on. Again, you know, this is when you want companies like Ripple backing the XRP Ledger. It makes sense now, doesn't it? Elsewhere, Project 11, a research group also focused on quantum computing, recently announced a competition to measure the real-world risk such technologies poses to leading cryptocurrency securities. The group reported that more than 10 million Bitcoin addresses have already exposed public keys. This puts about 6.2 million Bitcoins worth around $500 billion at risk if quantum computing continues to improve. A separate analysis by such a crypto quant pointed out that these attacks could also affect mining operations. Not only does quantum computing might be affecting 25% of Bitcoin wallet addresses, but quantum computing will also affect essentially Bitcoin's chain because it could go after essentially mining, essentially Bitcoin mining corporations as well. Again, I'm just saying, you know, this is the positives of having somebody like Ripple behind the XRP Ledger because they'll never let that happen. On Bitcoin, the issue is the developers have to be the one to step in and fix this from ever happening. But the only issue with that is that all developers need to be on the same page for anything to be passed so that they can essentially implement it on Bitcoin's network. In Ripple's case, they will just update the network. As much as there is also a vote, sometimes they just update the network. But the difference of developers need to be on the same page, Ripple just needs to update the network. Ripple will do it much more faster than 100 or 1,000 people coming to the same decision. Now, Trump media is what we're going to talk about next. But before we talk about that, let's go start the conversation first. And the good thing is also regarding quantum computing and Bitcoin situation, we're at the stage of regulations right now, which means we're going to be seeing that detachment happening slowly. So it's down the line, quantum computing comes through and it takes down 25% of Bitcoin's chain, essentially Bitcoin's wallet, and essentially it affects the Bitcoin mining corporations. Some people wouldn't care less. You know why? Because we've had detachment. Projects like XRP, XLM, XDC, Solana, Cardano, AVAX, TON, and so on, they've all would have detached themselves from Bitcoin because now we're getting regulations. So down the line, quantum computing comes through and affects 25% of Bitcoin's chain. Who cares? People that hold Bitcoin obviously care. The people that don't will just say, who cares? Because we've detached now. We're not following Bitcoin's footsteps anymore until eternity because now we have regulations and now we have utility. Now those contracts that we signed with all these actually major companies are in play. So I'm so happy that we're at the stage of regulations this quick in, and then we got them passed and Trump just basically needs to sign them. although the narrative, and I did say Q3, Q4 expect regulations, and I also said at essentially the beginning of this year and the ending of last year, I said that 2025 is all going to be about regulations. So this year is all about regulations and institutions coming inside the crypto sector, which is what is exactly has happened. This year has been all about regulations and institutions coming inside the crypto sector. Now, hi Miles, Peg, hi Miles, CMF, good to see you. Peg, how you doing? How you been? True, although the narrative about quantum computing could also be used by big players to prevent the small players from buying bitcoins so that big players can take all their BTC with themselves. That's also could be a narrative as well, but knowing that if quantum computing lands in the wrong hands, they will definitely use the empty out wallets. 100%. I mean, already people are trying to empty each other's wallets when it comes to basic crypto scamming. Imagine if someone gets their hands on quantum computing, they're definitely going to be emptying out wallets, Bitcoin wallets, because they can't empty out anything else. Now, Trump media files AI trademarks for Truth Social platforms. But interesting perspective, Robin. So Trump media has essentially filed for trademarks to get involved inside the AI space. Now, they haven't declared which AI platform or if it's going to be a blockchain AI platform so far. So this move by Trump Media and Technology Group highlights a push to enhance its platform functionalities through AI. Aiming essentially to optimize user experience and engagements, the outcome could reshape market dynamics, especially in the digital media sector. Trump Media and Technology Group has officially filed for trademarks for Truth Social AI and Truth Social AI Search, essentially marking a prominent foray into artificial intelligence. The company essentially plans to integrate these technologies across its core platforms, including Truth Social, Truth Plus, and Truth.fi. Devon, the CEO and chairman essentially of TMTG, is also at the helm of these initiatives. Devon essentially aims to propel the brand's growth by advancing its technology offerings. Currently, essentially, there are no specific technical details released about AI integrations or collaborations. Devon, essentially the CEO and chairman of Trump Media, integrating AI into our socials will be a big push in our initiatives to expand and enhance the Truth Social encompasses as essentially a one-stop shop for reliable information, non-woke news and entertainment. The filings could significantly affect the digital media sector by enhancing content delivery essentially and user interactions and experiences via AI. This transition testifies TMTG's competition with other tech companies also. Additionally, TMTG is also exploring digital asset investment products like Truth Social, crypto blue chip ETF, with major cryptocurrencies also included. Although specific allocations are essentially undisclosed, this could impact crypto market perceptions as well. No direct responses from notable crypto figures are available thus far, but regulatory outcomes could sway stakeholder interest. History indicates that AI integrations often draw mixed reactions from investors, affecting market trends differently. And also the SEC is reviewing essentially TMTG's filing, yet no compliance rulings have been disclosed. This development might redefine how AI is essentially perceived within the digital media, sparking dialogues on data privacy and control. However, broader implications, including potential financial and regulatory outcomes, remain speculative pending complete project and adherence and execution. So Trump Media is about to go for AI, adding AI features essentially to their platforms, and they have created a lot of platforms, to be fairly honest. But AI features, they haven't disclosed which AI platform they're going to be using, if they're going to be creating their own one, or if it's going to be a blockchain AI platform. But they did talk more about their crypto portfolio, that essentially American tokens, and they're expanding and buying and so on. Also, some news came out today on this topic of American essentially crypto. News came out that America doesn't hold the amount of Bitcoin and thought they essentially held. They actually sold off a tremendous amount of it, and they hold somewhere around 29,000 compared to the 200,000 Bitcoins that a lot of people assumed the US was holding, to be fairly honest. So that's an interesting one, that essentially they long time ago they sold off. I'm guessing the Democratic Party was the one that sold it off, or Biden's administration was the one that sold it off. So Trump wouldn't have the amount of Bitcoin that essentially was assumed that America was holding. But yeah, America only holds 29,000, somewhere around 29,000 Bitcoin, not the 200,000 Bitcoins they were expecting. Now, Cantor Fixcard is what we're going to talk about next. Cantor Fixcard is to buy 30,000 Bitcoins in a groundbreaking $4 billion SPAC deal. So, Cantor Fitzgerald, a firm rooted in traditional finance, is on the verge of closing a massive $4 billion essentially Bitcoin investment deal with none other than Adam Back, the legendary cryptographer behind Blockstream. In a movement that feels like the old world meeting the new, a financial titan is betting big on decentralized future, right when crypto regulations in the US is heating up. Cantor Fitzgerald is using this, essentially its special purpose acquisition company, SPAC, Counter Essentially Equity Partners One, to acquire up to 30,000 Bitcoins from Adam Back. This transaction would be structured as a Bitcoin investment exchanges for SPAC shares rather than cash, enabling Blockstream to gain public essentially market exposure. If successful, the company could rebrand essentially as a BSTR Holdings, making it a notable force in the global crypto landscape. In addition to essentially the core BTC transaction, Counter aims to raise another $800 million from external investors. This capital would support additional Bitcoin investments, possibly expanding holdings to near $10 billion across multiple SPACs, including another called essentially 21 Capital. The Financial Times also emphasized that this structure mirrors strategies previously adopted by MicroStrategy. The potential closing of this deal during a US Congressional Crypto Week adds a strict weight to the move. Regulators and lawmakers are currently debating major shifts in crypto legislations, making this a calculated Bitcoin investment aligned with market sentiments. Timing is everything, said one analyst. If this goes through, it sends a strong message that Wall Street is back in crypto big time. If Cantor Fitzgerald essentially purchase happens, then it does send a very big message to Wall Street that crypto is back and Wall Street is right behind it due to the regulations happening right now. Adam Back's involvement gives the venture serious credibility. He's not just a blockchain CEO, but also the mind behind Hashcash used in Bitcoin's proof-of-work systems. Counter, on the other hand, brings financial infrastructure and public listing expertise to the table. This rare synergy essentially could make BSTR Holdings a poster child for large-scale transparent Bitcoin investments. Cantor Fitzgerald's pending a $4 billion deal with Adam Back marks a pivotal moment in institutional crypto strategies. By choosing an SPAC route, this ambitious Bitcoin investment aligns essentially regulations and innovations and capital into one powerful package. If finalized, it could reshape how traditional finance engages with decentralized assets. Cantor Fitzgerald is about to do a very, very big move, sending essentially a message to the entire Wall Street and to the business world in general around the world that essentially Wall Street is standing behind crypto. Big movements on that matter. Now, again, this is happening during Crypto Week, just to send a bigger signal to the rest of the world. Stellar Development Foundation is what we're going to talk about next. So XLM has been doing tremendously well for itself as well inside the market space right now. It's been climbing the ranks, and XLM, in my opinion, needs to catch up to where XRP is standing at in terms of price points. So Stellar Development Foundation is unlocking growth and essentially doing with new hires. The Stellar Development Foundation stands at a critical juncture. In its journey as a network designed to connect the world's financial systems, Stellar has always prioritized accessibility, low-cost transactions, and utility for real-world applications. To achieve this ambitious goal of fostering financial inclusion and enabling efficient cross-border payments, the SDF requires visionary leadership with a deep understanding of both traditional finance and the blockchain space. The foundation recently announced the appointee of Jose, formerly a key player at PayPal, as its new president and chief growth officer, CGO. This move is significant, essentially, from Stellar Foundation. PayPal, a titan in the digital payments, has been cautiously exploring blockchain and cryptocurrencies for years, and Jose's experience at the forefront of these initiatives brings invaluable such insights and proven track records of navigating this complex financial landscapes. Joining him, as also joining Stellar, is Jason Crash, an executive with impressive stints at The Block, formerly known as Square, and blockchain.com, who steps in as essentially a chief marketing officer, CMO. Together, these appointments signal a clear intent that the Stellar Development Foundation is gearing up for a substantial push towards mainstream adoption and ecosystem expansions, because these two big players are essentially adding weight to Stellar Foundation, because adding essentially a Stellar Foundation team, it causes a ripple effect, because now people are looking at Stellar Foundation to the connections that these two men have that are bringing to the table, it could help to expand Stellar Foundation even further and help essentially boost the XLM price as we go along. As I said, XLM should be catching up to XRP's price anytime soon now. They represent not just a new personnel, but a renowned streak focus on scaling operations, enhancing essentially partnerships, and communicating Stellar's value propositions more effectively to a global audience. When an organization like Stellar Development Foundation essentially brings in talent from global payment giants like PayPal, it sends a powerful message. Jose essentially is not just any executive. He was the head of PayPal's blockchain and crypto efforts. His tenure there essentially involved steering the company's foray into offering cryptocurrency services, a move essentially that significantly validated the digital asset space for millions of users worldwide. As president CGO, essentially responsibilities at the SDF will be extensive. His role is fundamentally about driving growth, identifying new opportunities, and forging essentially street partnerships and expanding essentially the Stellar network's utility. This includes working closely with existing partners, attracting new developers and businesses to build on XLM. Exploring initiative use cases that leverage Stellar's unique capabilities, such as its speed, low transaction cost, and built-in compliance features. The recent executive essentially appointments at Stellar Development Foundation marks a significant turning point for the organization and the Stellar network. By bringing in heavyweights like Jose from PayPal and Jason Crash from The Block and Blockchain.com, SDF has signaled a robust commitment to street growth and market expansions and enhanced visibility. These leaders possess essentially the unique blend of traditional finance and cutting-edge blockchain expertise required to navigate the complexities that essentially is heading their way. But in my opinion, honestly, XLM is an incredible project, and it definitely needs to catch up to XRP's price. Is it going to catch up to XRP's price? Yes, in my point of view. In my point of view, I've always said XRP and XLM is like big brother and little brother. And right now, the little brother needs to catch up to the big brother in terms of price points. By making this street movement or bringing in big titans into their company and hiring them, brilliant move from XLM, honestly. Now, moving on from the announcements that came from Stellar Foundation to a Swedish company that came forward and decided to create a crypto portfolio. Swedish company launches Bitcoin division, raises essentially $1 million for treasury strategy. The new division named Digital Assets will operate alongside Refine's essentially existing products and digital services arms, marking a shift in the company's treasury management. So a Swedish company coming forward, creating a crypto portfolio, first investments being around $1 million. The firm plans to hold Bitcoin as a core reserve asset and will track performance using custom Bitcoin per share metrics, highlighting the long-term shareholder value through Bitcoin accumulation. The fund, its initial Bitcoin purchase, refined issue of 54,377 shares in a directed sale, raising 10 million Swedish kronor, which is roughly $1 million. The shares were priced at 20% discounts to the average trading price over the past week in a move approved by the company's board. It refines views essentially as Bitcoin is not just a hedge, but as a foundational component of the future finance. The company essentially said it intends to explore deeper integrations of Bitcoin in its balance sheet. Strategy will continue to grow its e-commerce clouds and marketing services. this move places Refine among a growing number of companies turning to Bitcoin as a treasury reserve in response to evolving global financial trends. So another company coming forward, essentially creating a crypto portfolio, putting $1 million aside to purchase Bitcoin. This is brilliant to see that more and more companies each day are coming forward and creating a crypto portfolio, because this just provides more liquidity to the table for the top 10, top 20, top 30 essentially crypto projects out there. Now, moving on from that to Ripple news. But before we go ready for any sort of Ripple news, just want to go inside the comment section first, because I've just seen Christopher has put a $20 donation. Thank you so much, Christopher, for the $20 donation. Absolutely amazing. It's going straight into that CMF hedge fund. Thank you so much for the donation, brother. I appreciate all the hard work that you do. Thank you so much, Christopher, for the $20 donation and for the kind comments. Absolutely amazing. Thank you. Now, Ripple. Some of you might have heard this news. Some of you might have not heard this news, but here is essentially a little brief on this particular news, which is Ripple partners with CTRL for Control Alt, in other words, for Middle East custody expansion. The Ripple Central Alt partnership seeks to expand the scope of digital asset custody in the Middle East, potentially reshaping financial services and asset accessibility in the region. Ripple is essentially announcing that they've signed another real estate company to bring to the XRP ledger. Again, this is just going to add a lot of liquidity to the table. Ripple has announced a new partnership with Central Alt, essentially aimed at enhancing essentially digital asset custodies in the Middle East using the XRP ledger. The collaboration was confirmed essentially on date, focusing on institutional and retail market growths. Ripple's collaboration with Control Alt, led by essentially Reese and Matt, involves Ripple's XRP ledger. The initiative focuses on real estate tokenization in Dubai, securing regulatory backing. This is the first time a government real estate registration authority in the Middle East has tokenized property title deeds on a public blockchain. Just to repeat that one more time, this is the first time a government real estate registration authority in the Middle East has tokenized property title deeds on a public blockchain. The first time they've ever done this, and who do they choose? The XRP ledger. The DLD has chosen the XRP ledger for this is a really exciting and reinforces the XRP ledger's credentials as essentially a blockchain of choice for serious financial use cases, said Reese, the managing director, essentially of Middle East and Africa, essentially Republic. This is the first time a government real estate registration authority in the Middle East has tokenized property such title deeds on a public blockchain, and they chose the XRP ledger. And essentially, this reinforces the XRP ledger's credentials as a blockchain of choice for serious finance. This is where essentially, when you say the XRP ledger is just on a different league, honestly, when it comes to serious finance, the XRP ledger is on a completely different league to any other blockchain around it. But not saying essentially that, but XLM is right up there as well. So is XDC, but XRP, honestly, XRP ledger is just an incredible chain. It's definitely on its own league when it comes to serious finance. This aligns with Control Alt essentially expertise in asset tokenizations. Control Alt, led by CEO Matt, specializes in infrastructure for tokenizing real estate and other assets. Having tokenized over $325 million, Central Alt aims to leverage Ripple's secure technology and wider market research through this partnership. The partnership could influence real estate markets by broadening investment accessibility through lower entry points. This government-backed initiative is likely to boost the credibility and use of blockchains in asset management. Ripple's tech, used by Control Alt under essentially VARA license, supports the secure token custody and transfer. The partnership essentially enhances Dubai's blockchain economy and aligns with Ripple's strategy of expanding XRP's institutional use case. Just again, to repeat that, Ripple's tech, used by Control Alt under the VRA license that Ripple holds in essentially the UAE, supports secure token custody transfers. The partnership enhances Dubai's blockchain economy and aligns with Ripple's strategy of expanding the XRP's institutional use case. Participants of this partnership may experience changes in market dynamics due to increased asset liquidity, and blockchain integration. The move signifies a potential shift in regulatory frameworks to accommodate tokenized real estate models. Ripple's involvement may essentially result in increased on-chain activities and real-world applications for XRP. Early traction and adoption could set historical precedents for blockchain-used real estate, reflecting broader market trends, insights from historical blockchain initiatives, and it suggests lasting, essentially, impacts if regulatory support persists, which are definitely what the UAE is, bringing out regulations left, right, and center for the crypto space. But the UAE choosing essentially Ripple, XRP ledger, more importantly, for the backbone, essentially, the first government real estate, essentially, organization, first government-backed real estate in the Middle East, which is crazy to put in that perspective, chosen XRP ledger because they see it as the number one option when it comes to serious finance. This is going to set a precedent for other Middle Eastern countries to come through and say, yeah, we're going to choose XRP ledger as well for serious finance, especially for tokenization. It's also going to send a precedent for other countries as well, that, you know, if the UAE government-backed real estate essentially firm is backing essentially XRP Ledger, well, you get the picture. It's like a domino effect of just governments backing into it. Now, also on the topic of Ripple Payments Europe SA. Now, if you're fully aware, yesterday I revealed on this live that Ripple essentially has applied for an MiCA license in Europe to expand its range. Well, today also news came out that Ripple Payments Europe SA just went live. Ripple Payments Europe SA just went live today. An active LEI in Luxembourg. Ripple Payments Europe SA, a company set up by Ripple to handle payments in Europe, has officially gone live with an active legal entity identifier, LEIA, in Luxembourg, a significant milestone in the company's expansion strategy across Europe. Not essentially at the same time applying for a license for MiCA in Europe, but at the same time going live in Europe. As announced by Ripple, essentially, the entity is now official, verified, and fully compliant. This development marks Ripple's growing presence in regulated jurisdictions as it strengthens its foothold in the global digital payments infrastructure. Registered under the entity name Ripple Payments Europe SA, the company secured its LEI essentially on April 21st, 2025. The registration is active now, verified and compliant with renewable scheduled essentially for April 21st, 2026. This move positions Ripple to operate seamlessly within the European Economic Area, aligning essentially with international financial standards and paving the way for a broader service offerings across the EU's single market. This milestone supports Ripple's ambition to establish a strong operational base in Europe, enabling it to expand regulated digital payment services across the borders. Perfect timing, I would have to say, as the US is passing their regulations and American crypto projects are about to take the rankings, one of them being XRP and Ripple, essentially. Ripple expanding at the same time into the European market spaces while the US is passing regulations. It's brilliant. Honestly, perfect timing. So the LE registration is a part of Ripple's broader regulatory essential strategy in Europe. The company has confirmed it is seeking electronic money institution EMAI essential license in Luxembourg to operate under the EU's markets in crypto assets MiCA regulatory essentially frameworks. This license would allow Ripple to issue digital assets such as RLUSD stablecoin or even XRP and offer payment services legally on paper across all 30 European countries. Ripple essentially representatives have publicly affirmed their intentions to fully be an MiCA compliant, underscores the firm's commitment to operating transparently within Europe's evolving digital finance environment. So not only is just USDC that's operating in Europe right now with their other token ERUSD, essentially the European stablecoin, but RLUSD is about to enter into Europe legally, and so is XRP. Luxembourg is emerging essentially as a top destination for crypto and fintech firms due to its strong regulatory clarity and access to major global banking institutions. Ripple joins the ranks of major players like Coinbase and Bitstamp that have also pursued MiCA licensings in the country. The ground essentially Duchy offers unique advantages, including the ability to meet strict stablecoin reserves requirements, such as maintaining 30 to 60% of reserves in bank deposits and ensuring diversification among banking partners. So that is something that Tether failed to do. USDT failed on the part where it says 30% to 60% of reserves in bank deposits and ensuring diversification among banking partners. USDT didn't want to do that in any sort of way. Tether didn't want to do that in any sort of way. That's why they're not allowed in Europe. And that's why Tether is also going to get banned very soon in the US. Ripple has also tapped essentially BNY Mellon to safeguard their USD reserves backing RLUSD, adding another layer of institutional grade trust to its operations. Over the past year, Ripple has made significant inroads across Europe. The company established its Luxembourg entity, expanded its offices, and brought in senior legal compliance personnel, including new essentially EMAE counsel. These moves align with Ripple's partnership across the continent, including collaborations in the UK and Portugal for euros, Great British pounds, and XRP-based payment services. Just to repeat that again, and XRP payment services in essentially the UK and Europe. Ripple's blockchain-based infrastructure, combined with initiatives like RLUSD, is designed to support faster, cheaper, and more transparent cross-border payments, and a core priority of EU's digital finance strategy. Ripple's essentially activation of its LEI in Luxembourg today, out of all days, signals a more than essentially a regulatory progress. It lays the foundation for its full integration into Europe's financial system. Just to repeat that one more time, Ripple's activation of its ELI number in Luxembourg signals more than a regulatory process. It lays the foundation for its full integration into Europe's financial system. As the country moves closer to securing an EMI license also, it stands poised to transform digital payments across the EU with compliant enterprise-grade solutions. Ripple's European momentum continues to build, and this latest move confirms the company is not just expanding, it's embedding itself into a regulatory and operational essentially core of the global financial system. So, not only did Ripple essentially get named by a real estate government company essentially in the UAE, the first time ever for anything for a public blockchain known to be XRP Ledger, but Ripple's payment essentially LEI went active today as well, so it could be slowly embedded into Euro's financial systems for full embedment. Honestly, where we're heading now with the essentially regulations inside the US, and regarding the question that Mac has just asked as well, any news in America passing Clarity Act? If I'm not mistaken, it's already been passed. They only have one more, which is the anti-CBDC Act. Where we stand right now, essentially inside the market space, the crypto week that we're in right now, it's after the crypto week, everything will be essentially going very smoothly inside the cryptos. Inside this crypto week that we're in right now, everything will pass through, in my opinion, very smoothly, because we have somebody like Trump inside the White House that is extremely pro crypto, and there's a man that essentially doesn't, when he says something or he plans something out, it's gonna happen no matter what. Is how he sees it. Like those 13 Republicans that voted no, Trump canceled the votes and said everybody needs to come to me now. Tomorrow they do the votes again, which was today, and it gets passed. So we know where Trump stands, and we know that he can get the job done no matter what. So this crypto week happening right now is the best thing that's happening right now for the crypto space. It's something that we've all been waiting for. Everybody's always asked the question of, when are we going to have regulations? Are we going to have regulations this year or next year or so on? We're getting them passed now. And then it's going to go to essentially Trump's table where he signs them into law. And when he signs them into law, it's going to send a very big, bold beacon of message to the rest of the world and to the US market space, like a ripple effect of the games start now. When Trump signs those bills, essentially, that's going to be on his desk by the end of the week. When Trump signs those bills, it's going to send a beacon of like a ripple effect to the rest of the world and to the US market space. The games start now. In other words, utility starts now. Slowly, not overnight. It's not going to be Trump signs it, utility starts straight away tomorrow. It's going to be slowly. But the thing is, we finally got to this stage. We finally got to the stage of rules and regulations. We finally got to the stage of essentially utility happening. Perfect timing also, because we can finally see the detachment slowly happening from Bitcoin's footprint, which is the best thing we need for the XRP Ledger, for XLM, for XDC, for Solana, for Cardano, for all these brilliant crypto projects to finally be able to detach themselves essentially from Bitcoin's footsteps. But also, XRP's true potential is slowly going to be seen. And as I said previously, there are 3 green lights for essentially XRP's Ledger or Ripple, in other words, to be able to prevail and go further. One was always regulations. One was always the case for it to go in. The next one was pretty much utility after regulations. And, well, we're not far off from the green lights, are we now? And as I said previously, this is all about the year of regulations and utility. And as what Peter Bandit said, essentially, the man that hated essentially cryptocurrencies for the longest time and then slowly started liking Bitcoin, in his words, or in my words, like 2 years ago, I said, or 1 year ago, I said, up, up, up. Every year, since crypto projects, so certain crypto projects under utility will just go higher and higher and higher. And it will get to a stage where no longer macroeconomic effects will affect them too much, or essentially geopolitical tensions and so on and so on, because now utility is in play. Which, honestly, it was a long road, but we finally are getting there. On that note, we have also reached the endings of tonight's live. So if you're watching this for the first time ever, this is called the CMF Live Show. And it stands for Crypto Miles Family, and my name essentially is Miles. This was episode 335 of the CMF Live. For some reason, this is episode 334, but it's actually episode 335. And episode 336 will be tomorrow. So if you're tuning this for the first time ever, this is called CMF Live, stands for Crypto Miles Family. My name is Miles. You can tune to this live show Monday to Friday, 10 p.m. London time, where essentially I share the most recent news regarding cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, AI, politics, and regulations. Pretty much everything you can know about regarding this world transforming into a digital space. So before we do go, let's go inside the comment section first, and then we'll call it a night. And by the way, just want to take a few moments just to say, honestly, thank you so much to everybody from the CMF that tunes in every single night in these lives, or even watches the replays, who drops a like, drops a comment outside the live, and drops a retweet. If you haven't done that, CMF members, like and retweet, because I have huge plans for the CMF, but I want to grow this family alongside, and I cannot grow this family by myself. I need your help to grow the CMF family, so I need you to like and I need you to retweet every single live, so that essentially we can grow this family, because I have huge plans ahead of ourselves, but I need your help. I cannot grow this family without your help, CMF members. So I would appreciate a lot if you like and retweet the live shows. Thank you so much to everybody who has already liked, essentially, and retweeted this live on X. If you're watching this on X, and if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much to everybody who's already liked the live as well. And always put a comment outside the live. Just take 5 seconds to hashtag XRP outside the live, inside the comment section of the live. Hashtag XLM, hashtag Trump, hashtag whatever you want. Just put a comment, like, and retweet. I appreciate it a lot so much. Before we do go, let's go inside the comment section first. Let's see where we're at. And once again, Christopher, honestly, thank you so much for your $20 donation. Absolutely amazing. Any Polkadot news and your opinion on DOT in general will be successful in the next 12 months? It's possible Polkadot could do well in the next 12 months. It should climb the market space. Any news on America? So let's go, Stormy. Any news on America passing the Clarity Act? I think it's already passed as well, to be fairly honest. Hi, Mouse. Sold all my XLM and XRP yesterday. Sure he did, Louis Vuitton. 0 Democrats voted. Yep, I'm fully aware of that. Miles, when are they ending the XRP case for good? Apparently in the coming weeks. Thank you, Miles. Have a lovely night all. Let's go, Luna. See you tomorrow same time as usual. Good night, Miles, and all the CMF. Thank you for a great live and news. Ripple are going to take over the world. Absolutely facts. I'm telling you right now. I said this before. Mark my words. There will be a day when Ripple will be the #1 company out there, and XRP will be the #1 token out there. Thanks, Miles. Let's go, Stormy. Thanks, Miles. You are a supreme. Let's go, Jeff. Thank you so much for kind words. Stormy, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. Jeff, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. JP, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual. Night, Miles and CMF. Pablo, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. Good night, Miles and CMF. I shall see you all tomorrow night. Let's go, Funky Brother. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. Bright future ahead of all of us in the CMF. Take care, all. Thank you, Miles. Ray, let's go. See you tomorrow sometimes as usual, brother. Good night, Miles. See you tomorrow evening. Let's go, Cal. Cali, see you tomorrow sometimes as usual as well. Thanks, Miles and CMF. Have a great night, and see you tomorrow, same time. Let's go, Autistic. See you tomorrow, same time as usual as well. Miles, we are there for you and for each other. Let's go, Funky Brother. Respect, Miles. Have a good evening. Let's go, Max. See you tomorrow, sometime as usual as well. Great news tonight. Night, Miles. Night, Miles. Susie. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual as well. Thanks, Miles. Good night, CMF. See you tomorrow. Let's go, Orphan. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Thanks, Miles. We love you. Thank you, Orphan. Thanks so much for the kind words. Love you too, brother. See you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Love all of you. Great live as always. Thanks for your time, Miles. Much appreciated. Let's go, CMF. Shelly, thank you so much as well. And see you tomorrow, sometimes as usual. Good night, Miles and CMF. Christopher, thank you so much for the donation of $20. Absolutely amazing. And I'll see you tomorrow, Christopher, same time as usual. I will see everybody tomorrow, same timing as usual, for episode 336 of the CMF Live. See everybody tomorrow, same time as usual. Love you all. See you tomorrow, 10 p.m. London time, as usual. Like, comment, retweet, follow, subscribe if you already haven't.